After Cheick's death, the wealth returned, but Jabari's soul grew darker. Femi, devastated by the loss of another child, began to suspect something was wrong. When the time came for Ode's sacrifice, Femi confronted Jabari. "What have you done?" she demanded, tears streaming down her face. "Why are our children dying?" Jabari broke down, confessing everything. Femi screamed in horror, her love for him shattered. "I can't do this anymore," Jabari sobbed. "I won't." Defying the ritual's demands, Jabari refused to sacrifice Ode. But the consequences were swift. Greetings to you all, my lovely subscribers and viewers. Welcome back to my YouTube channel African Folktales by Dave. This is a story called The Dark Side of Money Rituals. It is about an African man named Jabari in his early 40s who had a beautiful wife named Femi and 3 children. In this story we see Jabari performing a money ritual ceremony for wealth and riches, but less did he know the price he had to pay. So do not forget to press that subscribe button to get notified when I upload new videos. Like and share this video. Comment below on your thoughts about money rituals. Thank you for your support and enjoy. The Dark Side of Money Rituals, based on a true story. The sun bore down relentlessly on Korundu, a town of stark contrasts where the wealthy lived behind high gates adorned with gold trims, and the poor scraped by in crumbling shacks patched together with sheets of rusted metal. Among the latter lived Jabari, a man in his early 40s whose appearance told the story of his life, a dark-skinned man with a tall, wiry frame weighed down by years of hard labor. His afro, marred by male-pattern baldness, framed a face weathered by sun, wind, and worry. His beard, though long, was unkempt, and his red-black eyes betrayed a weariness that sleep could not cure. His clothes were a patchwork of rags, a testament to countless repairs. The sandals on his feet had been worn thin, the soles barely hanging on by a thread. Jabari's poverty was not a secret, nor was it unique in the poorer quarters of Korundu. Yet, it seemed to weigh on him more than most because of the family he struggled to feed. Jabari and his wife, Femi, shared their tiny home with their 3 children. The space was scarcely larger than a storage shed, its roof leaking whenever the rains came, its walls barely shielding them from the harsh sun. Their furniture consisted of a single mattress shared by the family, a wobbly wooden table, and a few mismatched stools. A corner of the room served as the kitchen, where Femi would cook on a small charcoal stove that filled the room with smoke. Despite their struggles, Femi remained a pillar of hope for the family. Her smile, though often strained, radiated warmth, and her melodic voice could calm even the fussiest tantrum from Omari, their youngest. Femi's beauty, her smooth ebony complexion, bright eyes, and a strong, graceful presence, had drawn Jabari to her in their youth. Now, it was her resilience that kept him going. Their children, too, bore the marks of poverty. Cheick, their eldest, was a thoughtful and intelligent teenager, her dreams of becoming a doctor vivid in her conversations. Ade, the second-born, was quieter but just as bright, often found reading borrowed books by the faint light of a kerosene lamp. And then there was Omari, the 2-year-old with an infectious curiosity that often led him into trouble. His laughter was a rare joy in a home burdened with hardship. Jabari worked tirelessly, taking on any odd job he could find to keep his family afloat. His days were long and grueling. At dawn, he would head to the wealthy quarters of Korundu, hoping to be hired to clean yards or wash cars. He worked under the blistering sun, scrubbing mud from driveways and trimming hedges while the rich barked orders at him. When there were no cleaning jobs, Jabari turned to the market, where he sold fish and vegetables. With a weathered wooden tray balanced on his head, he navigated the crowded streets, shouting out his wares. The profits were meager, barely enough to buy the next day's stock. There were days when even the odd jobs were scarce. On such days, Jabari scoured the town for scrap metal, which he sold for a pittance to recyclers. He once dug trenches for a construction crew for an entire week, only to be paid less than half of what was promised. It wasn't unusual for him to return home empty-handed, his body aching and his heart heavy with guilt. The family's meals were sparse and repetitive: porridge in the mornings, a thin vegetable stew for lunch, and, if they were lucky, a piece of fish for dinner. Femi often went without food so the children could eat. Jabari hated seeing the hunger in his wife's eyes, but his shame at being unable to provide weighed on him even more. One evening, as Jabari sat outside their shack, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and red, Chek approached him. She hesitated, clutching a one-school notebook to her chest. "Papa," she said softly, her voice tinged with worry. "The teacher said we can't take exams unless we pay the school fees." Jabari looked up, his heart sinking. He knew this day was coming, but he had hoped for more time. "How much is it?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. 3,000 naira for both Ade and me," Chek replied, her voice almost a whisper. Jabari reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled note and a few coins. It was all he had earned from selling vegetables that day, barely enough to buy food for the week. He pressed the money into Chek's hand, avoiding her eyes. "Take this," he said. "It's not enough, but I'll figure something out." Chek nodded, her lips pressing into a thin line. She knew better than to ask for more. Femi watched the exchange from the doorway, cradling Omari in her arms. Her eyes met Jabari's, and in them, he saw the same unspoken worry he felt. How much longer could they keep living like this? As the stars began to emerge in the night sky, Jabari sat in silence, the weight of his family's needs pressing down on him. In the distance, he heard the hum of a car engine, a sound that always reminded him of Abidemi. His childhood friend had risen from the same poverty Jabari now endured. Yet, Abidemi lived a life of luxury, his wealth growing with every passing year. Jabari couldn't help but wonder, what had Abidemi done to escape the clutches of poverty? Little did he know that the answer would soon come knocking, setting him on a path from which there would be no return. On one regular day, Jabari was cleaning the yard of a wealthy businessman when he first encountered Abidemi again. Bent over, scrubbing stubborn mud from a tiled walkway, Jabari paused to wipe sweat from his brow. The sun was merciless, and his shredded shirt offered little protection. From the corner of his eye, he spotted a sleek black SUV pulling up to the gate. The vehicle was a stark contrast to Jabari's reality, polished to a mirror shine, with custom rims and tinted windows. As the driver stepped out to open the back door, Jabari's heart skipped. Out emerged a man he hadn't seen in years but would never forget, Abidemi. The man had changed drastically. Gone was the lanky, scrappy boy Jabari had once played football with in their youth. In his place stood a robust figure, short and stocky but dressed impeccably in a designer suit that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. His wrists were adorned with gold bracelets, and his teeth gleamed with expensive cups. "Jabari." Abidemi's voice boomed as he strode forward, his face lighting up with recognition. "Is it really you?" Jabari straightened, a mix of embarrassment and disbelief washing over him. "Abidemi," he replied hesitantly, his voice hoarse from hours of work. "It is you." Abidemi laughed, clapping Jabari on the shoulder. "It's been years, my friend. Look at you." He paused, his gaze lingering on Jabari's worn clothes and gaunt frame. "Life hasn't been kind, eh?" Jabari forced a smile, the words sticking in his throat. "It's all been a struggle. You've done well for yourself, though." Abidemi grinned, flashing his gold-capped teeth. "Well, you know how it is. You have to make your opportunities in this world. Come on, let's catch up. Are you done here?" Before Jabari could protest, Abidemi was already leading him toward a nearby restaurant. The air-conditioned room was a sharp contrast to the scorching heat outside, and Jabari felt out of place as they sat at a table surrounded by wealthy patrons. Abidemi ordered lavishly, a grilled fish, spicy jollof rice, and a bottle of expensive wine Jabari could never have afforded. As they ate, Abidemi talked about his successes, his businesses, his properties, and the connections he'd made in high places. "I wasn't going to stay in poverty forever," Abidemi said, leaning back in his chair. "I decided to take control of my life. You should do the same, Jabari." Jabari swallowed hard, his appetite suddenly gone. "It's not that simple, Abidemi. I've tried everything, odd jobs, the market, anything I can find. But it's never enough. My family, my kids." His voice broke, and he looked away, ashamed of the tears that threatened to spill. Abidemi leaned forward, his expression serious. "Listen to me, Jabari. You're a good man, but hard work alone won't get you out of this. The world isn't fair, and the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can do something about it." Jabari frowned. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying there's another way," Abidemi said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "A way to change your life. To give your wife and kids the life they deserve. But it's not for the faint-hearted." Jabari's heart pounded. "What way?" Abidemi glanced around the restaurant, ensuring no one was listening. Then he leaned in closer. "Money rituals." Jabari recoiled slightly, the word sending a chill down his spine. "Money rituals? Are you talking about witchcraft?" Abidemi chuckled, shaking his head. "Call it what you want. I call it taking destiny into your own hands. Look at me, Jabari. Do I look like someone who regrets his decisions?" Jabari's gaze shifted to Abidemi's gold watch, his tailored suit, and the confident smirk on his face. What would I have to do?" Abidemi's smile faded, replaced by a solemn expression. "It's not easy, and it's not free. You'll have to make a sacrifice, something important, something that shows you're serious. But once you do, the rewards are beyond your imagination. Wealth, power, freedom." Jabari felt his chest tighten. "Sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice?" Abidemi shrugged, his tone casual but his eyes cold. "It depends. The spirits demand different things from different people. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's a part of yourself. Other times," he trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Jabari shook his head. "I don't know if I can do that." Abidemi placed a hand on Jabari's shoulder. "Think about it, my friend. How much longer can you live like this? Watching your wife suffer, your children go hungry. This isn't just about you, it's about them. Don't they deserve a better life?" The word struck a nerve, and Jabari looked away, his throat tight. "I'll leave you with this," Abidemi said, rising from his seat. "If you're ready to change your life, come to my house tomorrow night. You know where to find me." As Abidemi left, his confident stride and expensive cologne lingering in the air, Jabari sat in silence. His mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, fear, temptation, and a desperate longing to escape the crushing weight of poverty. That night, as he lay in bed, he watched Femi stitching torn clothes by the light of a flickering lamp. Omari slept soundly in the corner, his small body curled up on the mattress. Chak and Ode shared a blanket, their faces peaceful but thin from days of eating only porridge. Jabari clenched his fists, the ache of helplessness gnawing at his soul. Abidemi's words echoed in his mind, "This isn't just about you, it's about them." By morning, his decision was made. The night was unusually still, as if the world itself held its breath. Jabari's footsteps echoed on the cobblestone path leading to Abidemi's mansion. The air was thick with humidity, clinging to his skin like an invisible shroud. His heart pounded with every step, each beat a deafening reminder of the choice he was about to make. Abidemi's mansion loomed ahead, its ornate gates opening as if expecting him. The building exuded an eerie grandeur, its walls illuminated by the cold glow of floodlights. Jabari hesitated at the threshold, his hands trembling. "Come in," a voice called from within. It was Abidemi, his tone calm and confident, as if he were inviting Jabari to a dinner party rather than an encounter with the supernatural. Jabari entered, his eyes darting around the room. The opulence was staggering, marble floors, gold accents, and a chandelier that sparkled like a constellation. But there was something unsettling about the place, an undercurrent of unease that set his nerves on edge. Abidemi emerged from an adjoining room, dressed in a flowing white robe. His usual charm was replaced with a solemn demeanor. "Are you ready?" he asked, his piercing gaze locking onto Jabari. Jabari opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. He wasn't ready, not in his heart, not in his soul, but he nodded anyway. He thought of his family, of Femi's tired eyes, check school fees, Aid's borrowed books, and Omari's innocent laughter. This was for them, he told himself. "Follow me," Abidemi said, leading Jabari through a narrow hallway that seemed to stretch endlessly. The air grew colder with each step, and the walls closed in, lined with unsettling symbols etched into the stone. They entered a dimly lit chamber, its walls adorned with red and black drapes. At the center stood an altar carved from dark wood and stained with what Jabari could only assume was blood. Candles flickered, their flames casting eerie shadows that danced across the room. The smell of incense and something metallic filled the air, making Jabari's stomach churn. "Sit," Abidemi instructed, gesturing to a stool near the altar. Jabari obeyed, his legs weak beneath him. From the shadows, the figure emerged, a man cloaked in deep red robes, his face obscured by a mask carved in the likeness of a snarling beast. The figure's presence was overpowering, his every movement deliberate and commanding. "The priest," Abidemi whispered, his voice reverent. The priest placed a small wooden bowl on the altar and began chanting in a language Jabari didn't recognize. The sound was guttural and haunting, each syllable reverberating through the chamber. Jabari's hands clutched his knees, his fingernails digging into his flesh as the weight of the moment pressed down on him. Abidemi leaned close, his voice barely audible over the chanting. "The spirits require something precious. You must give them your son." Jabari's breath caught in his throat. "Omari," he whispered, his voice cracking. Abidemi nodded. "The spirits know the depths of your desperation. They demand a sacrifice that proves your commitment. This is the price of freedom from poverty." "No," Jabari said, shaking his head. His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried a desperate finality. "Not Omari. He's just a child." Abidemi's expression hardened. "There's no other way, Jabari. Do you think wealth comes without cost? Look around you. Everything you see, my cars, my houses, my life, it all came because I made the hard choice. You want to save your family, don't you? This is how." Tears streamed down Jabari's face as he thought of Omari's wide, curious eyes, the way he clung to Jabari's leg whenever he came home, his laughter that could light up even the darkest day. How could he do this? How could he betray the very essence of fatherhood? But then he thought of the hunger in Chik's voice when she asked for school fees. Of Femi's quiet sacrifices, her meals skipped so the children could eat. The priest's chanting grew louder, filling the room with a dreadful energy. Abidemi placed a hand on Jabari's shoulder. "The spirits are waiting. Make your choice." The priest raised a blade, its surface engraved with symbols that glowed faintly in the candlelight. He handed it to Jabari, the metal cold against his skin. "It must be by your hand," the priest said. "Only then will the spirits know you are committed. I will make you travel to your house in spirit in order for you to give a sacrifice." When Jabari held the blade, he immediately saw himself in his little shack standing above his last-born son Omari. Jabari's grip on the blade faltered. He felt his knees weaken, his breath coming in short, ragged gusts. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the pounding of his heart. Omari stirred but did not wake, his small body oblivious to the turmoil surrounding him. Jabari's hands trembled as he raised the blade. The room seemed to close in around him, the candles flickering wildly as if the flames themselves were protesting. His sobs filled the chamber, raw and guttural. "I love you," he choked, pressing his lips to Omari's forehead one last time. The moment the blade descended, the room erupted in a cacophony of sound. The priest's chants rose to a deafening roar, the candles flared violently, and the shadows on the walls twisted into monstrous shapes. Jabari collapsed to the ground, the blade falling from his hand. Omari was gone. Jabari fell to his knees, clutching the altar, his body racked with sobs. He couldn't look at what remained on the altar, couldn't face the reality of what he had done. Abidemi knelt beside him, his voice soft but firm. "It's done. Your new life begins now." When he finally rose, his legs weak and his soul shattered, Abidemi handed him a suitcase. "This is the beginning. There's more where that came from, as long as you honor the spirit's demands." Jabari stared at the heavy, his hands shaking. Inside was more money than he had ever seen in his life. But the weight of the suitcase was nothing compared to the weight on his heart. As he stumbled out of the mansion and into the night, the distant sound of Omari's laughter echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of what he had lost in his quest for wealth. The transformation was immediate and striking. Just weeks after the ritual, Jabari's life took a sharp turn. His fortunes seemed to bloom overnight. The suitcase Abidemi had handed him was just the beginning, a gateway to a world he had never dared dream of. Jabari invested the money cautiously at first, buying fish and vegetables in bulk to sell in the market. The returns were astounding. Customers flocked to him as though drawn by an invisible force, his goods selling out before midday. Soon, he expanded to selling other items, luxury goods, fabrics, and electronics. Each venture thrived, as though fate itself had decided to favor him. Then came the businesses. Abidemi guided him to invest in larger ventures, transport companies, import and export deals, and real estate. His name quickly spread across Korundu. The poor man with shredded clothes and a gaunt face was now a rising tycoon. The wealth came faster than Jabari could comprehend. He moved his family from their crumbling shack to a sprawling mansion in the wealthier district of Korundu, complete with gleaming marble floors, a sparkling swimming pool, and staff to cater to their every need. Femi, once weary and frail, was now dressed in the finest clothes, her beauty shining even brighter in the glow of their new life. Chike and Ade were enrolled in the best schools, their uniforms crisp and their futures bright. But while the world celebrated Jabari's success, a darker truth lingered within him. At first, the joy was overwhelming. For the first time, Jabari didn't have to worry about the next meal. He could sit with his family at a table laden with food, hearing laughter instead of the silence of hunger. He watched as Femi redecorated their mansion, her laughter returning after years of absence. Chike and Ade excelled in their studies, their faces glowing with pride. Yet, Omari's absence was a void that no amount of luxury could fill. His laughter still echoed in Jabari's mind, a haunting reminder of the price he had paid. The empty crib in the corner of their home was a silent monument to his sacrifice. One day, as Jabari sat on his mansion's veranda, sipping a glass of fine whiskey, Abidemi visited. His arrival, as always, was accompanied by a palpable aura of authority. "You're doing well," Abidemi said, sinking into a chair opposite Jabari. "You've come a long way from scrubbing yards." Jabari forced a smile. "Yes, but it doesn't feel like I thought it would." Abidemi's expression darkened slightly. Wealth comes with its own burdens, my friend. But you must focus on the future. The spirits are pleased with your progress. They'll continue to bless you, as long as you honor the agreement. The words sent a chill down Jabari's spine. The agreement. Abidemi leaned forward, his gaze unyielding. Every 2 years, the spirits will require another sacrifice. You've reaped the rewards of their favor. To keep it, you must continue to prove your commitment. Jabari's glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the tiled floor. Another sacrifice, he whispered, his voice trembling. You knew this, Abidemi said firmly. Did you think the wealth would come without continued dedication? You're a wealthy man now, Jabari. Wealth doesn't come cheap. Jabari's mind raced, memories of Omari flooding back. He thought of Chek and Ade, their bright futures, their laughter that now filled the halls of their home. The thought of losing another child made his stomach churn. I can't do it, he said, his voice barely audible. Abidemi's face hardened. You don't have a choice. Without the sacrifices, the wealth will crumble. Everything you've built, your businesses, your home, your family's comfort, it will all vanish. Jabari buried his face in his hands. The fruits of his wealth were now poisoned, their sweetness overshadowed by the looming threat of another sacrifice. Femi noticed the change in him. Jabari, what's wrong? She asked one night as they lay in bed. You've been distant. We have everything we ever wanted, yet you seem more troubled than ever. He couldn't bring himself to tell her. How could he explain the darkness that had brought them their wealth? How could he confess that the mansion, the cars, and the luxurious life were built on Omari's life and possibly more? Instead, he buried his guilt deeper, trying to mask his torment with more success. He opened new businesses, donated to charities, and became a respected figure in Korundu. The fruits of his wealth were plentiful, but they came with thorns that pierced deeper with each passing day. Jabari was trapped in a gilded cage, his riches a prison from which he could never escape. The clock was ticking, then Jabari knew that the time for the next sacrifice was drawing near. The weight of his decision pressed on him like a vice, threatening to crush what little humanity he had left. 2 years passed, and the ritual demanded another sacrifice. Jabari tried to resist, but strange misfortunes began to plague him. Business deals collapsed, and his health deteriorated. Abidemi visited him, his tone cold and commanding. This time, it was Chek, the vibrant, intelligent girl who dreamed of becoming a doctor. Jabari's anguish was unbearable, but the fear of losing everything drove him to commit the unthinkable once more. After Chek's death, the wealth returned, but Jabari's soul grew darker. Femi, devastated by the loss of another child, began to suspect something was wrong. When the time came for Eid's sacrifice, Femi confronted Jabari. What have you done? She demanded, tears streaming down her face. Why are our children dying? Jabari broke down, confessing everything. Femi screamed in horror, her love for him shattered. I can't do this anymore, Jabari sobbed. I won't. Defying the ritual's demands, Jabari refused to sacrifice Ade. But the consequences were swift. His wealth vanished, his businesses collapsed, and his estate was seized. Femi took Ade and fled, leaving Jabari alone with his guilt. Haunted by visions of his dead children, Jabari descended into madness. He wandered the streets of Korundu, his once proud figure reduced to a broken shell. The townspeople whispered as they passed him, a man who had flown too close to the sun and paid the ultimate price. Jabari became a cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the dark side of ambition. He roamed the streets muttering names, Omari, Chek, Ode, his heart forever broken, his soul forever lost. The dark side of money rituals had consumed him, leaving behind nothing but a shadow of the man he once was. To the conclusion of our story, it depicted a battle between the following. Morality versus desperation. How far will someone go to escape poverty? Family and sacrifice. What is the true cost of wealth and how does it weigh on personal relationships? Guilt and redemption. Can Jabari find peace or redemption after losing everything? Cultural beliefs and superstition. How does the story reflect societal fears of wealth gained through questionable means? Let's not forget that these are just my own personal view and take from this great and informative story. What would you have done if you were in Jabari's shoes? Was the money rituals worth sacrificing his children? To be involved in this conversation, answer the above questions by commenting below your own personal views and what you have learned from this story. Do not forget to press that like and subscribe button as it helps with our channel to grow and be able to reach more viewers with more entertaining and informative stories. Like and share this video. Thank you for your support. Until next time.